Well, it's a stretch run for the San Antonio Spurs, but are they looking poised to defend their NBA title? Welcome to the Spurs Roundtable powered by Project Spurs. I am Jeff Garcia, and joining me for this episode is Mariah Medina and Steven Anderson. Well, only a handful of games are left, and the Spurs are sitting at 46-26. But the question is, have they flipped the switch? Are they ready to go with just a few games remaining?
I think possibly they have, because you see how they dismantled the Oklahoma City Thunder by 39 points, almost the worst loss in that franchise's history. But remember, they were without Kevin Durant,
That's right,
without Serge Ibaka. However, on Friday with Dallas, they completely did exactly the same thing that they did with Oklahoma City. The only problem with that is that it took them losing how they did that Tuesday to Dallas to kind of do that. So
yeah, but Mariah, this team looks almost bipolar. You know, they go and beat Oklahoma City, they go and get revenge on Dallas, but then they lose to Dallas in that way.
I think that a lot of us are really sticking to this stat where we've won 12 of our last 15 games. We're finally just getting there, you know, reaching some point of consistency. But at the same time, our losses, we lose to the Knicks one night, we win against the Hawks another night. That doesn't scream consistency to me. That screams inconsistency to me. I think that while a win is a win, these aren't you know, necessarily consistent wins.
And to be fair, the Spurs have won 5 of their 6, and mind you, this is being recorded before the Memphis game. So, in 5 of the last 6 wins, you know, the only loss is to Dallas. Their defense is coming around. They've held 5 of their last 6 opponents under 100 point scoring. So defensively, they're coming back little by little.
I have to argue with that.
But they still test. Oh, go ahead, tell me.
I don't think that their defense is necessarily where it should be. Moreover, I don't think that it's at a point where it's coming back. You know, looking at Dallas, their loss against Dallas, Monta Ellis is averaging 34 points against the Spurs.
Yeah, but that's just one individual game, though. But collectively, in the sample size that we have,
that's one individual.
They've been holding teams under 100 point scoring. That's big.
When you look at it this way, okay, who's better, Russell Westbrook or Monta Ellis?
Right.
Who did we do a better job defending? We can't defend Monta Ellis. He's over here scoring 34 points on us. That doesn't show.
Well, to be fair, Mariah, they did hold Monta Ellis to 10 points in that Dallas win. But you know,
how many minutes did he play?
Well, he did get injured. Yeah, yes. But you know, Steven, though, you know, again, we're talking about flipping the switch at the right time for the Spurs.
Right.
One person that has flipped the switch has been Boris Diaw.
He has, and I mean, I remember I was on the podcast with Aaron Prine, and we discussed this, how he was inconsistent a while back, and now he's kind of dialed that in. We saw him score, I believe it was 19 points against Dallas. We saw him score 18 against Dallas in Dallas, and then he also played well against Oklahoma City. So the last 3 games he's done very, very well. The problem is, though, can he keep it up? Because we saw what Boris Diaw did in the finals last year and in the Spurs playoff run to get that title. He was the Boris that we needed him to be. If he can do what he's doing now and do it consistently, then I like the Spurs' chances going further.
Yeah, Boris Diaw has scored in double digits, 19 points in the last 2 games. And here's a little stat for you. They're 10-1 when Boris scores 14 points or more. So he is very vital right now. But another vital player that's been finding the rhythm is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is definitely looking like the Claw, the MVP Finals guy that we saw last year.
I didn't expect you to say that.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that, with the exception of the fact that we might be putting too much emphasis on Kawhi Leonard. I think that we saw the effects of the emphasis and, you know, this burden that we're putting on Kawhi when, you know, yes, he's second on our team with his defensive rating, but I think that we're just putting too much.
I have to disagree. I mean, you know how Kawhi is basically the most important player on this team. We saw when he got hurt with that hand injury, how the Spurs struggled defensively. Now he's the leader in steals in the entire NBA. He's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. So we know how important his defense is to this team. And not only defense, but he does it on the offensive end as well. So I would say he's not really number 2. I think right now he's the number 1 option, kind of with Tony Parker.
Right, you know, and Tony, we got to throw Tony Parker in the mix. Yeah. You know, he's been dealing with that hamstring issue for a good chunk of the season. But lately he's been finally getting his rhythm as well. He's getting into the paint. He's being the TP that we've seen in years past. You know, credit goes to him too.
It does. And I mean, we all heard the talk when Tony was struggling. It was all over ESPN, all over USA Today. What's wrong with Tony Parker? Is he the reason why the Spurs are struggling? And he responded the next day by scoring 31 points. And it was a win. And then he came back, he scored another 31 against Cleveland. Of course, that was a loss, but it took Kyrie Irving scoring 57 to,
Right, exactly.
to that happen. But I mean, with Tony Parker, Papa said it. We're not going to go anywhere unless Tony plays at a higher level, and he
Right.
has been doing that so far.
And I want to go back to Dial real fast. At the last Spurs win in the Spurs locker room, Parker and Splitter were heaping praise on Dial, saying this is another team when he's on.
Right.
When he's playing, it's a whole different team. And Tony Parker even said he's another point guard out there on the court.
I think that in addition to when Tony Parker is on, I think when Manu Ginobili is on, we're just a completely different team altogether.
Yeah. But I think the Manu Ginobili that we've seen in years past, that's gone. You're probably gonna get
That's gone.
You're probably gonna get classic Manu every so often, maybe once every 2 games, 3 games.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna see the 2005 Manu. He's not walking into the door anymore.
With the long hair.
Yeah, long hair.
It's not happening. But I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's not. But I mean, right at this point in Manu's career, you're going to have to get what you're going to get from
Right,
him.
and I'm glad you bring that up because some room for improvement as they head into the stretch run is definitely that bench. That bench has been struggling of late, and just to break it down a little bit more, you look at the last 3 games. Bellinelli at Dallas 7 points, OKC 6 points versus the Mavs in San Antonio 4 points. A guy Mills 5 points at Dallas. OKC 11 points, but then the win against the Mavs 3 points. Players like him and Manu, they really need to step it up.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the bench, you mentioned inconsistency. The bench to me is one of the main reasons why this team has been so inconsistent. I mean, we've seen it in times where the stars do well, Pop takes them out, and then they just can't score. So, I mean, and I think Mills is really the driving force behind that bench. I mean, I know little Patty Mills.
Right.
I mean, he's obviously had the shoulder injury. He's really struggled to come back from that.
Right.
And, I mean, if he can get it going, I think he can kind of spark that bench to kind of get it going as well.
Right. And by the way, Mills, he's the one that said little and tiny, not me, okay? Yeah, he said it, all right?
I'm meeting him Thursday, so we'll talk about there.
But what about these third quarter lapses we've been seeing from San Antonio? Look what almost happened versus Dallas in San Antonio. They blew away a 21-point lead.
I think that any coach, whether it be professional, high school, elementary basketball, they will tell you that the third quarter is the most pivotal point of the game. How you do in the third quarter is going to be a reflection of the ultimate score.
Right.
And I think that we've done a poor job at the third quarter.
Yeah, those third quarter lapses have been crucial in some of the Spurs losses. They take their foot off the gas. Look what happened versus Dallas at Dallas. We all saw that. Yeah. But another point I like to bring up for room for improvement is ball passing. Sometimes we saw the beautiful game versus Atlanta in Atlanta to get a huge win, and then we see them flop against Dallas.
Yeah, I think the best game of the season was that game against Atlanta.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, going against the best team in the East, Mike Budenholzer versus Popovich, and look what they did. Pop basically said, "You want to play like Spurs East?
Right.
I'll show you how we play," and that's what they did. But you're right, the inconsistencies in the Dallas game, they did well that first quarter. To come back in that second and third quarter, they kind of just forgot everything they did,
right.
And they kind of it was their own mistakes that cost them that loss. And I think this entire season has been their own mistakes. Of course, after the injury is what I mean.
Right.
Giving their own mistakes. So if they can just, like Tony said, get more consistent, then I believe we can see this team really just come out and do well.
That's right. Well, those are our thoughts right there on room for improvement for the San Antonio Spurs in the stretch run, as well as have they flipped the switch? I'm of the opinion they have, and it looks like this last few games they have will really determine what playoff seeding they begin. But before we put a wrap, by the way, I know I look like a total complete bum right now. I grabbed the first shirt that I saw right now, and these two individuals looking really nice. But Tim Duncan, baggy pants, GQ pretty much poked fun. Actually, they called him baggy dad jeans. Mariah, you had an interesting interaction with his girlfriend.
The designer that I guess put together that infographic tweeted something, and I guess I followed him, but I tweeted at him and I tweeted at Vanessa Macias as well, and I was like, can we get an infographic of pre-Vanessa Macias and post-Vanessa Macias? And I believe her response was something along the lines of, oh, Poppy's looking good now.
Yeah.
Looks the same.
Yeah, he's still Tim Duncan, but we're going to put a wrap on this show. But don't forget to go out to ProjectSpurs.com to see all coverage when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs, as well as don't forget to go to News 4 San Antonio and to Fox 29 San Antonio. They got some great information on the San Antonio Spurs. But for Mariah Medina, Steven Anderson, I'm Jeff Garcia. Thanks again for watching this episode of the Spurs Roundtable. You guys are making